Welcome back to What's Your Take? Real talk on leadership and life. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki, the DBA pharmacist, healthcare leader, and founder of FitBiz Global Solutions. Some conversations are too important and too nuanced to reduce to a single soundbite. In this brief reflection, I'm sharing excerpts from an upcoming conversation exploring how bias, perception, and representation can shape leadership advancement. These dynamics often influence opportunity in ways that are subtle but significant. Let's open up the conversation. Today, we're examining how colorism and perception intersect with leadership pipelines and how those dynamics can shape professional experiences for women of color. I'm joined today by two thoughtful guests who bring important perspectives to this conversation. Carla Turner, a physiotherapist and independent case manager in the United Kingdom, and Zanda, Bonamy, an engineer and director of health, safety, and environment at a major power company in the Caribbean. From your experience, how do perceptions, whether related to colorism or broader bias, affect leadership advancement? And I'm going to ask Carla that question first.
This is an interesting question. I think there's been a lot of research, certainly in the UK, around the point that you made actually earlier before your question, which is really about representation at a leadership level and not reflecting not just the professionals in the body, but also the communities and the people who use the service and how it reflects broader society and how important that is actually. Taking that and connecting it to your question. When I sort of think about the biases as such, I think it's been quite a challenging conversation broadly to touch on bias. And, in the UK, we have certain laws in place, particularly I'm thinking about the Equalities Act, where it's supposed to protect certain traits, as we call them, certain characteristics, as we call them. And to me, that law that is acknowledging that there is an existence of bias that can impact on people receiving access to service and opportunities across the board. So in terms of professionalism, an example of that could be your sexuality. It could be you as a female, and particularly a female who is pregnant or potentially going to become pregnant, and the sort of decisions that might be made in the books where you don't have access to that might say who might be the best person for certain leadership roles. I think in my experience, there probably have been a handful of very tangible moments professionally where a colleague of mine, whether that's senior or peer, who's also potentially experienced or been on the receiving end of bias, has deliberately had a conversation with me. A conversation about an opportunity or a conversation that was more about a safeguard and making me aware of support if I ever experienced anything that, was unpleasant because of maybe in a Black female, maybe in a Caribbean female. So it's certainly a complex subtlety that I think exists in broader society, and therefore we have to be honest, I think, about acknowledging that it will infiltrate into our organization and our professional experiences, and there has to be some intentionality about navigating that, because we might be missing out on a lot of talent really getting into those positions.
So, Zanda, I want to ask you the same question. How do perceptions, whether related to colorism or broader bias, affect leadership advancement from your perspective?
Okay, perception. I've found that for leadership positions, people, it's ironic. I want to use perception as one here because if you're not someone who is perceived to be, I don't want to say loud, boisterous individuals rather get noticed quickly. If you're someone they perceive to be timid or quiet, they believe that you would not be a good leader. I experienced such a thing coming up because I go to work, I do my work, be professional about it, don't like to get involved in too much. Do not like to get involved, period. And here I say, you say, and I say. And so those types of people tend to be overlooked for a longer period of time. And it takes a special leader to recognize that you have the skills. You just need to be given the autonomy to do your job. I guess it takes someone who doesn't judge people solely on face value. I mean, I don't see why you would want a leader who's boisterous and loud, but it seems to be the thing that helps to influence that from a perception point of view. Also, stature, how big you are, how small you are. People look at that as well to determine whether you'd be a good leader, which is interesting because most leaders, such as Napoleon, were short. But it is what it is. I'm wondering if those type of things really affect you more earlier on in your career than later once you had to prove your mettle. Maybe I may have had to work harder than other people. I don't know. I don't think so, but it all depends.
This has certainly been a really good conversation, and I think we've unpacked some important layers around perception and leadership. Leadership advancement is shaped not only by performance and capability, but also by perception and the systems around us. This reflection is only the beginning. We're going to pause here and continue this conversation in the upcoming mini-series Colorism, Perception, and the Leadership Pipeline. If this discussion resonated with you, make sure you are following the podcast wherever you listen and subscribe to FitBiz Solutions Media on YouTube. You can also connect with Carla and Zanda on LinkedIn using their full names. Thank you to our listeners for being part of the conversation. Stay connected at fitbizsolutions.com and on social Instagram at fitbiz.solutions or directly with me at Dr. Nikki, the DBA pharmacist. Until next time, lead with intention, keep honoring your process, and always ask, what's your take?